you want a full reference number? 646. Yeah. Yeah, no, process. One for there. Do you want a full reference number? 646. Yeah. Yeah, no, process. One for there. Do you want a full reference number? 646. Yeah. Yeah, no, process. One for there.
Hey, what's up? How y'all doing? It's Colin with Keeping Tabs, and we're back for a live stream podcast. Hope everyone's doing good tonight. Ooh, it's a little laggy. But that'll be alright. We have a lot to discuss. Dynamo not doing that good to start, but there's a long season, and hopefully the Dynamo can get their feet on the ground. With 34 games in the season, anything can happen at this rate, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried, because I am worried. So, through 12 games of the season, this is one of the Dynamo's worst starts since I can remember. We sit 14th place, that's second to last. And there's only one team in the league that's worse than us, and that's LA Galaxy, a team that hasn't won a game all season. 12 games in, they haven't won a game all season, and they're the only team that's worse than us. And we played them, and we didn't even win. We couldn't even beat them. So, I'd be lying if I said I was not nervous, but there is hope. There is hope. We have some players coming back from injury. We have the summer window opening soon, so we can make new signings. It's looking gloom, but there's possibility of a turnaround, but we'll get to that. So, one stat that really stood out to me, which is terrible, and this is from Somos 713 on X, he found that we have just 10.2 xg. That's 10.2 expected goals out of 12 games. That means we're supposed to be scoring less than 1 goal per game. And if you were not aware, that is the lowest xg in the season. I mean, that is the lowest xg out of any team in the league. I mean, we are the bottom feeders of MLS. And to add on to that, the Dynamo have played 3 more games at home than they have away, and we have lost 4 games. 4 games at home we have lost. And the most home losses by a Western team in 2024 was 7 that made the playoffs. And in 2023, it was 6. And I remember back when our home used to be a fortress. I remember when we would go entire seasons with only losing 1 to 2 games. And I remember back in 2017 where we had not made the playoffs for, I believe, 9. I think we only made the playoffs once in 9 seasons, and we went undefeated at home. And funny enough, we actually lost, or we didn't. I don't think we won a single home game that season either. So that was a big flip flop. But my point is that we used to be a fortress at home. Teams used to be scared to play us. You know, Houston is a very hot climate. It's very humid. It's a hard place to play, so that works in our favor. But not anymore. I mean, we have almost as much points at home as we do away this season. It's absurd. And it's humiliating, honestly. I mean, when you get a team like FC Dallas, your biggest rival, to start the season at home for your home opener, and you lose 2-1, what kind of example does that set for the fans? What kind of example does that set for the team? Your biggest rival, and you lose 2-1. I just don't know. That's just really frustrating if you ask my personal opinion. And in case you weren't aware, this is officially one of the worst starts in franchise history. But one interesting stat that I did find, and where they failed to win their first 11 games of the season, and they still made the playoffs. And if you remember correctly, in 2023, we played Sporting Kansas City in the second round of the playoffs. They finished the regular season in 8th place, and we played them after they beat St. Louis. And they had a worse start to the season than we have, but the problem is that they were also heavily outscoring their they had a high XG and they just weren't meeting it. That means that they were supposed to be scoring a lot more goals than they actually did. So 12 games in the season, they were having an 18 XG as opposed to our 10.2 XG. So a little bit of devil's advocate there. I mean, yeah, it's early in the season. Yeah, there's a lot of games to play, but if we don't get something going quick, then I'm not so sure that there can be hope when the season ends. And we look at last year in 2024. Oh, apparently Willow. Thank you, Luke. Thank you. What's up, guys? What's up, chat? What's up, David? Corey Baird. How do I super chat, Jacob? You wanna send me a super chat? Hey, $20. $20 in the super chat, please. I think like this podcast is so laggy because Luke and Jacob in the chat are going crazy, and I appreciate the support. Those are my boys. And so yes, we look at last season, and as you all know, the playoffs is 9th place through 1st place. That's who makes the playoffs. And the 9th place, which is the last seed that makes the playoffs, last year had 47 points, right? Right now we have 10 points. We are on par if we continue on this same trajectory, to finish 28 points. That's not a lot. That's a lot less than 47 if my math is right. So we have been so poor. We have been one of the worst teams in the league, and it's really not even close. So the big question is it on the coach or is it on the players? So we're going to take a little dive into the players and see what's happening. So the first player that I want to discuss is Femi Adesu, the rookie out of Penn State who spent all of last year at Dynamo and getting his numbers up, performing well, and eventually getting a first-team contract. And unfortunately, Mikael was sold in the offseason, meaning that Femi Adesu, the rookie, hasn't played a single MLS minute of his career, had a jump in the starting 11. He started every single game out of the 12 games we've had, and I'd say he's done all right, but he's in the spotlight for a totally different reason tonight. So he got his first goal against Seattle last game, where we lost 1-3. It was a beautiful goal, but right after that, he got a red card. And we're going to take a look at that. And you tell me if this is a red card. We're going to watch this back. The ref said that it hit his hands inside the box. Where does it hit his hands? Where does the ball hit Femi Adesu's hands? His arms aren't up. His arms are not in an unnatural position. That changed the entire tide of the game. Okay? It was 1-1 at that point, and the ref decides to give a red card to Femi Adesu right after he scored his first MLS goal, an equalizer, might I add, and the ref sends him off. And not only that, he actually gets fined by the league for not leaving in an appropriate amount of time. Just a little kiss on the butt on the way out. I can't believe it. Like, I am absolutely, like, taken away. Alright? Absolutely not a red. Not a red at all. What do y'all think? What do y'all think, chat? What do y'all think? L interaction? Hey, Jacob, what do y'all think? Is that a red? Is it laggy? Is it laggy for y'all? It's a little choppy on my end. Red? Neha, come on. Come on. Not a red at all. Not a red. At least that's my opinion. And apparently the league thinks that as well, because Ben Olsen appealed to the league to get the red card taken away, and they declined that request today. So he will serve his suspension, he will serve his 1-game ban, and the red card will stand. I think that's an absurd call. I mean, MLS is full of terrible refs. And if you know anything about soccer, you know that refs around the world are criticized every single game for their decisions. And I'm not saying it's easy to be a ref. I'd probably be a terrible ref if I were a ref. But what I am saying is that that is their job. And in a very important moment in the match, he sent Femi Adesu off, and that changed the tide of the game. The entire tide. Ooh. It says... Okay. How laggy is it right now? Because on my end it says it's really choppy. And it looks pretty choppy. Be honest, you don't have a shirt underneath that hoodie, huh? I'm gonna let the chat decide on that if I do. I think this would be better if you streamed out of the Galveston Public Library. I think you're probably right, actually. My Xfinity Wi-Fi is not meant for this. Stream status is poor. I know, okay. It's not smooth. I don't know why, guys. But we're gonna keep on going, regardless. We're gonna push through. We're gonna push through just like the Dynamo will push through. Because I believe. I'm a believer. So, personally, I think it's not a red card. And as a rookie, I think he's doing pretty okay. He's 4th in the league in clearances. And he's being put in a position where he has to start. And that's not easy. He's going to make mistakes. He's not going to be perfect. But personally, I think that he's done about as good as you could have asked for. This is like, for what happened at Aliu. Luke, Aliu actually got sold to Columbus Crew for $500,000, which is kind of a lot for a player that is as bad as he is. So I think that was pretty interesting. It opens up a U22 spot for us as well, and if you're wanting to know, he is not a starter for Columbus Crew, and he has not gotten a goal or an assist. So it's about as you would expect. So the Dynamo center back core is pretty handicapped. So with Femi Aldesu obviously getting the red card and missing the next game against Minnesota United, which is actually tomorrow, who is going to start at center back? Is it going to be Pablo Ortiz, the new Colombian center back who gifted a goal to Seattle as soon as he came into the second half to make it 2-1 in Seattle's favor? Is it going to be Bartlow, the man who gifted Seattle's first goal? And we're going to take a look at that because I think it is egregious. So we're going to take a look at Bartlow and his mistake. So watch this. Bartlow's in the middle, right there, number 4, lets his man wide open. And we're going to watch that again. So look in the middle, by the penalty spot. Completely leaves his man unmarked. It's a free header right in the middle, and that's not his first or his second or even his third offense this season. He has been absolutely terrible, and he's supposed to be a guy that we can count on to start when we need him to. And he gives away a chance like that at home in front of a lot of fans, a team that's struggling, and he lets his man be completely unmarked, and gives away an open goal. I'm not going to give my opinion of the new Pope. I'm sorry, guys. This is a soccer podcast. We're not getting political out here. I refuse to. I refuse to get political. And plus, I don't know anything about him anyways. So, one center back that I haven't mentioned yet is Eric Sviatchenko. He is a very, very important player on this team. And unfortunately, he's been dealing with a lingering injury that has been keeping him out of the 11 every so often since the start of the season. So 12 games in, he's only played a handful of matches, but I have some interesting stats to show what the Dynamo look like with and without Eric Sviatchenko, the Danish center back. Without Eric Sviatchenko in the 11, the Dynamo are 0 wins, 2 ties, and 4 losses on the season, with 4 goals, 4, that's not a lot, and 10 goals against. That's a lot. And also 2 clean sheets. Both of those were 0-0 draws away from home, which were okay results, I suppose. Okay, so no wins without Eric Sviatchenko in the lineup. The Dynamo with Eric Sviatchenko in the lineup have 1 win, still not a lot, 2 draws, and 1 loss. I'm sorry. We have 2 wins. Sorry about that. We have 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. With 7 goals scored and 9 goals against, and also 2 clean sheets. And that's a bit skewed with Eric Sviatchenko in the lineup because early in the season, whenever he was dealing with that injury that I mentioned, he was forced to start against Inter Miami, obviously the team that has Messi, and we lost 4-1. So yeah, we gave up 4 goals against Miami with Messi, and so that's a bit skewed if you ask my opinion. But it's obvious to see that with him in the lineup, we are a much better team than without him in the lineup. So we're hoping that he can get over this injury pretty quickly because he was not in the 11 against Seattle. So we're hoping that it's nothing serious and that he can get back in that 11 against Minnesota, because Minnesota are a very good team, and we could very well be facing only 2 wins from 13 games come tomorrow. So another player that I wanted to talk about, and this is interesting, is Ezequiel Ponce. So he is our designated player, our striker, that we got from Greece for $7.5 million. The Argentinian man has had a handful of goals and assists this season. He has 3 goals and 1 assist in MLS play out of 12 games. And from the sound of that, you would think that that's, like, really bad. But I have some interesting stats from around the league that might show that that's not as bad as you think. So there are 69 DP players in MLS, and Ponce has more goal contributions. He has 4 goal contributions. He has more goal contributions than 35 DP players, with some notable players being Olivier Giroud, Lucho Acosta, Zaha, Brandon Vasquez, the $10 million striker, Ousmane Bakari, the $7.5 million striker, Painstill, Gabriel Peck. The list can go on. He has more goals and assists combined than all of these players. So it's a kind of what you would expect. There's 69 DP players in the league, and he has more goal contributions than 35. So he's right around middle of the park there, if you think about it, which is kind of what you would expect based off how you see him play. I mean, he's okay, not great, but not as bad as people say that he is. But my biggest grievance with him, and that's not necessarily to the fault of him, is that he's not a hold-up striker. And Ben Olsen is very, very adamant on having him receive the ball up the pitch and make a play left, right, or forward. And that's not what kind of striker he is. He's a give-and-go type of striker. He's a guy that you could give the ball in the box and he's supposed to score. He's not a guy that's going to advance the ball, and that's how we are trying to play him. We're trying to play them as a false 9 center forward type player, and that's not to the best of his ability. And I think that really hurts the team, and that just goes to show how stubborn Ben Olsen can be with his tactics. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but the problem is he is very unwilling to adapt, and that's what's really hurting the Dynamo right now. Yes, I don't think it's all on Ben Olsen, and then yes, I don't think it's all on the players. I think it's a mixture of both. Another player, Mick Glenn. He has a lot of controversy surrounding him. He came into the team advertised to take over Hector Herrera's position, the Mexican international legend, the player that played for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, scored goals for them, big goals. And Mick Glenn was advertised to be that player to take over, to fill his shoes. And I don't think that was fair to McGlynn, because obviously he's not at that level yet. Okay? McGlynn has done okay. He has 1 goal and 3 assists in MLS play this season. And remember how we were just talking about Ben Olsen and his inability to adapt and change things up? Well, Jack McGlynn is one of the rare occurrences where Ben Olsen did change things up. He originally was playing in Hector Herrera's role, which is the left center mid position. However, to accommodate for his left foot, because Jack McGlynn has a terrific left foot, Ben Olsen moved him to Coco Karaskia's position, on the right center mid position, and since then, he's looked a lot better, and the Dynamo as a whole has looked a lot better. So I want to give my applause to Ben Olsen for that, because that was a pretty good move on his part. And I think that McGlynn, he's only 21 years old, right? He's super young. He's supposed to be in the Gold Cup roster for the U.S. men's national team, and usually the U.S. men's national team brings a B or C team to the Gold Cup, but because, as most of y'all know, the Gold Cup is the last competitive tournament before the World Cup, Pochettino is actually going to bring an A-team roster, so Jack McGlynn will be a part of that, allegedly, and I think that's super good for the Dynamo, and that's obviously super good for him, a young player who's still trying to prove himself on the big league. So, look, he's done okay. He hasn't done great. He's done okay, which that's the case for most of the players in the Dynamo. They've done okay. One player, the last player that I really want to touch on is... Wait. Off topic, but I swear I've been seeing stuff that we're interested in bringing Elise back to H-Town. So, Luke, I saw your DM on X, and I've been meaning to respond to you about this, but that was not anything that was a rumor. They were just saying that we haven't gotten paid, which is absurd, because that happened in 2020, and we still haven't gotten paid by Boa Vista, which was a club that bought him for allegedly like $1 million. So, yeah, I think that Elise would help out a lot, but you have to remember, Luke, he just got out of a coma like less than 3 or 4 months ago. And I really don't think that he's ever going to play a high level of football ever again. He's playing down at La Pantera, which is his club that he built in Honduras. So he's probably never going to play abroad again, which is probably for the best of it. I mean, you never want a player getting that bad of an injury to come back and hurt himself again. So I think it's best for him and best for everybody if he stays. And honestly, I think he would help, but he's not the player that he used to be, honestly. So, moving on. One player. This is the last player that I really wanted to touch on. And that is Amin Bassi. Okay? And I don't get the hate. He has 2 goals and 1 assist, which is not fantastic. I will agree. That is not a fantastic return on a player that, we just re-signed. You would hope that he'd have a little bit more production, especially with him being in the lineup week in, week out. However, let's just get to the numbers. He has 2.11 expected goals, and if you remember right, we only have 10.2 expected goals on the whole season. So he has about a fifth of the goals that we've supposed to score. And that is 74th percentile among players in MLS. He has 2.08 expected assists. That's 77th percentile in MLS. He's taken 11 shots. That's 70th percentile in MLS. His shot conversion rate is 19%. And if you think about it, that sounds like a really low number. However, that is 75th percentile in MLS. Shot accuracy is 46%. That's 56th percentile in MLS. Pass completion rate is 90%. 88th percentile in MLS, and the big number that everyone really cares about, and I saved it for last, is key passes. He has 13 key passes, which is 1.28 per 90 minutes, and that is 75th percentile in MLS. So he has not done as bad as people say he has. I mean, he's being advertised as a player that is only out there and is a liability, and that's just not true at all. I mean, he is a very important player for this team, and for as much hate as he gets, he's really not that bad. Not at all. And then there's a few more players that I'm going to touch on. So Dwayne Holmes is the center midfielder that we got from the championship, and former U.S. men's national team player. He's hovered around the third division, hovered around the second division of England his whole entire career. So as you know, when we got him, he had a broken leg, which is very Pat Onstad-like to get a player that has a broken leg. However, he's practicing fully now, and he could allegedly be on the team sheet against Minnesota. That is wonderful to hear because we've been needing a player that could provide a dangerous threat going forward. And as much as I think Brooklyn Reigns is a great prospect, as much as I think he could one day be a great starter in MLS, I really don't think that Brooklyn Reigns is a goal threat at all. I don't think we are goal dangerous with him on the ball. He makes the safe passes, which is not a bad thing. He's a young kid trying to impress the manager, trying to make his spot on the team. He's going to try not to mess up, but the safe passes are not the passes that this team needs. We need passes that are going to take risks. And I think that Dwayne Holmes can be that player. So in the championship, he did okay. In 2023, he had 4 goals and 5 assists. And in 2024, he was dealing with some injuries, so his output decreased. But as an 8 in the championship, the best second division in the world, I don't think that that's bad. I think that he could really help us. And keeping on the same line of injured players, we're just going to round this out with Lawrence Anali and Nelson Quinones. 2 players who could have greatly impacted the outcome of the season had they been fit, had they not been injured. However, both of them sustained season-ending injuries in 2024, and those injuries were so severe, at least for Nelson Quinones, that I'm not sure if they're ever going to come back and be the same player that they are. So Neutral Zone said, "Pat out, dub take. Is a rebuild necessary? David, he's done good. Free at will." I think the hate comes from him playing back and side to side all the damn time. He slows down the attack at all times. So Bossy he keeps possession. I mean, that's what his main strong suit is. And we are a possession-based team. And that's why I think that he fits the model and the game plan the best. And for as little as we might like it, Ben Olsen is a side-to-side back kind of coach. And I think that can stifle a lot of attacks, but keeping possession is a very good asset in soccer. And I think that a lot of our success in 2024 and 2023 came from keeping possession. We were one of the highest possession teams, second in the league, only behind Columbus Crew in 2024. And I think that we should keep on that same game plan, if I'm being honest. And we have Spooky Pookie, and they said, "I'm waiting for an apology from the organization the straight face this org is making with this performance is just disrespectful." So yeah, I mean, Pat Onstad getting rid of all those players is very disrespectful in my opinion. I mean, we had 2 weeks before the season started, and he sells Mikhail, albeit for, a a club record fee for $5 million. But what did he do with that money? He didn't do anything. We bought Linger for $2 million, who has a DP tag, and I think he's done good. I mean, there's no swinging around the ropes here. Linger has done really good. He scored 2 goals in his first 2 appearances, helped us close down Phoenix Rising in the U.S. Open Cup to move on to the next round. We're still deciding if he should earn that DP tag. However, he can be brought down in the summer, and we can make room for another DP, or we can have 4 U22 players. So, I don't know. I mean, take it as you will. I think, Pat Onstad hit with Andre Linger, but for all the GAM it seems like we acquired from selling Coca Karaskia, from selling Mikhail, all the money, all the cap space, we didn't do anything with it. So I see your point, Spooky. I do. Trust me. So can be brought down. Yes. So it is confirmed from Asher Middleton on X that he can be bought down, which is pretty good if you ask me. I mean, I was really upset with the DP tag at first. However, you just can't deny that he's done good. I mean, his goal production is really good. He's only played, I believe, 5 matches. Yeah, so he's played 5 matches total. He has 2 goals and 2 assists, including the U.S. Open Cup. So, yeah, I mean, 4 goals and assists in 5 matches. You can't ask for something better than that. But we'll see. I mean, he was pretty ineffective against Seattle, but wasn't everybody. I don't think a single player was good in that game. So, we'll see. We'll see. So, that's the players done. And there's 2 sides to every coin. Is it some of the players' fault? Is it some of Ben's fault? Let's take a look at Ben Olsen. Ben Olsen has had only 2 starts to the season that were worse than the Dynamo start in 2025. Remember, 12 matches played, 10 points, 2 wins. He's had 2 seasons in his long tenured career. I believe, 13, 14 years as a head coach? A long time. Since 2010 at DC United. So in 2013, and this one's a doozy, Ben Olsen's DC United side only had 1 win and 5 points out of 12 matches. That's insane. But it gets even worse. That team finished with only 3 total wins on the season out of 34 games, and only just 16 points on the year. Jesus Christ. That's really, really bad. How he didn't get fired after that, I have no idea. And funny enough, this DC United team actually finished with the lowest amount of points out of any MLS team in the history of the league. And this season is commonly dubbed the worst season ever. Not my words. I read some article. Apparently it's dubbed the worst season ever. I don't know. That's pretty darn bad if you ask me. 16 points. It's like you have to try not to win games at that point. So yeah, that's his first season. His second season in 2020, the year they got him fired from DC United after his 10-year career as a head coach there, he had only 2 wins and 9 points through 12 games of the season. Again, that's worse than our 2 wins and 10 points. And Ben Olsen was fired after the 12th game of the season, which was a 4-0 loss to New York City FC. And one interesting thing that I found out about Ben Olsen's career as a head coach at DC United was that Ben Olsen did match the amount of points that we've had through 12 games, which is 10 points. And this was in 2018. And they actually ended up finishing in 4th place with 51 points. They didn't do anything in the playoffs, but they racked up the points. And that does show that Ben Olsen can turn things around. I believe that's whenever they had Lucho Acosta, that's when they had Wayne Rooney, and they had some heavy hitters that I don't think we have. We definitely don't have a Wayne Rooney on our team, but they were able to turn things around after starting pretty horribly. So, I like to play devil's advocate. It seems hopeless, but there are instances that could give you a little bit of hope. So Juan, he asks, is Alasanya good? So he's from the Scottish League, which, outside the Rangers and the Celtics, that's a pretty despairing league. I think most MLS teams would beat most Scottish League teams other than Celtic and Rangers. That being said, he did look fast against Seattle when he came on late against tired legs, I suppose. But I just have a really hard time. I have a really hard time accepting that a player from a league so bad, and that's funny, an MLS fan calling another league bad because MLS is not great in itself, I guess. But it's hard for me to imagine that a player coming from the Scottish League can really make an impact for this Dynamo team. But if you remember, Christian Ramirez went to the Scottish League after we sold him from the Dynamo, actually, back in 2022, something like that. And he is a pretty good player, and he had worse stats than Alessandro did at the Scottish League. So, give it how you will. I think his pace can certainly help, but do I really think that Alessandro will get much playing time when Nelson Quinones and Lawrence Anali are back from injury? No, I don't think so. I wanted to talk about my biggest critique with Ben Olsen. So we mentioned and touched on his lack of ability to adapt and to change things up when things aren't going right. However, his substitutions and the planning of his substitutions are terrible. And to me, it seems like every single substitution that he makes is pre-planned before the game even starts, and it doesn't seem like that it's in response to necessary tactical adjustments, if that makes sense. It seems like he kind of just talks to players beforehand, is like, okay, you're coming on in the 65th minute for this guy, regardless of how players are playing, because I swear Sebastian Kowalczyk can be starting and having the worst game of his life, and then he'll take off Andre Linger in the 60th minute for, I don't know, it's like, it seems like he's having these conversations with players before the game even starts. And that goes on to his lack of adaptability. And it's very MLS 1.0-ish of him. That's my biggest critique. What's your biggest critique? Go ahead and type in the chat what the biggest characteristic about Ben Olsen that really grinds your gears, that really gets you going. Yes, spooky. The subs are infuriating. I agree. I don't know if you, it's terrible. So Fire at Will asks, what names would you put out there for summer signings to help turn things around? I'm the wrong guy to ask for that because I don't know a lot about leagues that MLS would go after. Like, for instance, the Polish league, like, where we got Anali. Like, I would have no idea. Like, I've never seen a Polish league game. Or Slovakia, like, where we got Pablo Ortiz. I don't know. Like, I watch, like, European football, like, Chelsea, like, Manchester United. I'm going to watch the Champions League final, but the Dynamo have no chance of getting a player from there. Around MLS, what do the Dynamo really need right now? I mean, we need a playmaker. And prior to FC Dallas grabbing Lucho Acosta, I would have said Lucho Acosta being that player. But right now, I mean, I would say I would say I thought Hassani Dotson, the player that was let go by Minnesota United, could have been a good pickup for us. It's hard for me to say. I'm just not too good at that. So, Pat Onstad was on Glenn's show earlier today, and I was unable to attend because obviously I was getting set up for the show, the live stream. But there are two things that I wanted to touch on that he mentioned on the show that I was able to get at least. And I don't know if he said anything else because I wasn't listening. This is just what I got from Twitter. However, he said to Glenn, that it's not necessary to change the game model. And I think that that is 100% the wrong attitude. It depends on what you say the game model is. If the game model is to just move the ball around aimlessly without purpose, then that's absolutely wrong. If the game model is to say, keep possession, okay, I suppose. But to act like that you don't need to change anything up it's really scary. I mean, that shows me that there's not a real urgency in the front office right now for one of the worst starts in team history. So, I'm not sure. Hey, what's up? What's up, Alex? Little boy in the chat. That's funny. Patrick, he said, I appreciate your tweets, brother. Too many Houston fans are satisfied with the mediocrity, and it's great to see people demand more from this team. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. I try to be as real as possible on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. I think too many fans are complacent with this team, and I personally think that mediocrity will continue if there's not any pressure from fans, because that's one thing about MLS that was really holding it back is the lack of pressure from media, from the fans, from the organization to get better. And without, real intentions to move forward, I don't think the pressure will ever build up. So I try to be as critical as the Dynamo when they need it, but I also try to congratulate them when they deserve it. Spooky Pookie says, I don't like how Ben sticks to the same playstyle with zero plan for when teams figure them out and expose their playstyle. It's like Ben has no ideas for adapting and adjusting play. Exactly. I mean, you hit it right on the head. I mean, it gets redundant whenever we. And I want to say this: teams line up differently. Teams have different tactics. I don't think we can attack the same team with every single plan and expect success. And I'm sorry, but without a real heavy hitter, I just don't see how this team can really have success in 2025. I mean, we had Hector Herrera 2023 through 2024, and while he is not on the Mount Rushmore of Dynamo players, I think he is the best Dynamo player to ever suit up in a Dynamo gear, and I don't think that's even close. I really don't think that's even close. So, with that being said, we're going to end off with talking about my preferred lineup when everyone is healthy. And that's a big ask, to ask for everyone to be healthy. I mean, soccer is so wishy-washy with players getting injured left and right, and we've dealt with that a lot through the past 2 seasons, but if everyone was top fitness, here's how I would like to line up. In net, Jonathan Bond. And I think a lot of you will be saying, where's Gillingham? And for that, I will say, I think that having him be the cup goalkeeper for this year is adequate. I was not really for that at first. However, Bond has done really well. And I think I've seen him make saves that I don't think a goalkeeper as inexperienced as Gillingham could make. You remember he kept us in that game against LAFC. Yes, we lost 2-0, but he made 8 or 9 saves, which is a lot. It's a lot of saves. For me, he stays as our goalkeeper. I think his distribution has been okay as well. I think it's perfectly fine to let Gillingham learn from a decent goalkeeper, a goalkeeper that has experience abroad in the championship, ride the bench this season, and plan for him to be the starter next season. I think having him play in the U.S. Open Cup, which I thought he was tremendous in, and I don't think that was a penalty. I think all of you would agree that was not a penalty against Phoenix Rising. And I think having him play the U.S. Open Cup matches and play the League Cups matches will be sufficient enough. Left back, no surprise there. There's not really any depth there except Steres and maybe Felipe Andrade, who did okay against Phoenix Rising and was okay against Seattle. But he's a young player with a lot of promise that I think could definitely be a big part of the team next season. I just don't know if he's ready this season. So I'm going to have Escobar at left back. I will keep Femi Adosu at center back. I think he is actually a fantastic ball-playing center back. I think he has a real effort and real drive to try to advance the ball forward that I think is even better than Sviatchenko's distribution. And then, speaking of Sviatchenko, next to him I obviously have the Danish center back, the man that makes this a whole lot better than when he's not with us. Griffin Dorsey, there's no surprise there. Arthur, no surprise. Now here is where things get a little squishy. I want to move Andre Linger to the middle because Anali is going to start when he comes back and healthy. He is going to be that left wing player. So there's no doubt about that in my mind. So that's going to have to force Andre Linger to the middle of the field. And I don't think that Brooklyn Reigns or Dwayne Holmes when he's healthy or any of the players that we have that could play that position are going to cut it. I think Andre Linger needs to be closer to the goal and closer centrally as opposed to out wide because I think his talents get wasted when he's up there on the left side and then away from the goal. Obviously, next to him, we're going to have Jack McGlynn, Anali, and Bossy. Yes, a lot of y'all ask for Bossy to be taken out of the starting 11. However, I'm going to keep him. I think he's very important to the way we play, and you can't change the way we play mid-season. I'm sorry. That's just not how it works. Striker, Ponce. I don't think there's any surprises. I think that's mostly what the consensus would agree upon is our best 11. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it good. Just checking the chat. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and call it good, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being present in the chat. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope we can do it again soon. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Thank you to my boys out there, Gore, Jacob, Luke. Y'all are great. And hopefully we can get this again. And, it can get kind of busy for me, especially with work starting soon. I got a big test coming up that I have to study for. So I'll try to get another one in soon. And it was a real fun time. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and log off. And I'll see you guys later. This has been Colin with Keeping Tabs. Make sure you keep your tabs. Logging off.